You set a goal. You picture yourself achieving it. You feel motivated for 3 days. Then reality hits, and you quit. This is the optimism cycle, and it's why your goals keep dying before they start. It feels like you're doing the right thing. Everyone says, visualize success. Think positive. Believe in yourself. So you do. You imagine the finished result. You feel the excitement. Your brain floods with motivation. Then you start the actual work. It's harder than you thought. It takes longer than you planned. The gap between your optimistic vision and the messy reality crushes your momentum. You've been treating optimism as fuel when it is actually a drug that wears off the second real effort is required. And every time you rely on positive thinking to carry you through, you're setting yourself up for the same crash you've experienced 100 times before. This is called unrealistic optimism, also known as the optimism bias. Research shows that 80% of people believe they're less likely than average to experience negative events and more likely to achieve positive outcomes. Your brain doesn't just hope for the best. It genuinely believes things will go better for you than they statistically will. When you set a goal, your brain focuses on the ideal scenario. It downplays obstacles. It ignores how long things actually take. It assumes you'll be more disciplined than you've ever been. This evolved because optimism drove action. Humans who believed the hunt would succeed were more likely to try. Pessimists stayed home and starved. So your brain learned to paint rosy pictures to get you moving. The problem is, your brain is still painting those pictures, but now they're so divorced from reality that they sabotage you instead of helping you. Your brain thinks it's motivating you with possibility. It's actually setting expectations you can't meet. Watch how this destroys your goals at the planning stage. You decide you're going to work out every morning. Your brain shows you the motivated version of yourself who loves 5 a.m. wake-ups. That version feels real, so you set your alarm for 5 a.m. Day 1, the alarm goes off. You're exhausted. That motivated person you imagined doesn't exist in this moment. You hit snooze. By day 3, you've quit, or you start a side project. Your brain shows you finishing it in 2 months. You believe that timeline because it feels achievable in your imagination. 2 months pass. You're maybe 20% done. The project isn't bad. Your timeline was just wildly optimistic. Now you feel behind, and you quit. Your brain promised you a version of the future that required 0 obstacles and perfect execution. Reality delivered obstacles and imperfect execution. You blame yourself for not being the person your optimistic brain promised you'd be. Studies found 89% of people never recognize when this is happening. You set optimistic goals that feel realistic. This leads to underestimating the work required, which leads to hitting obstacles you didn't plan for, which makes you feel like you're failing, which kills your motivation, which makes you quit and set another optimistic goal next month. You're not just dealing with one unrealistic plan. You're trapped in a cycle where optimism creates failure, which creates the need for more optimism, which creates more failure. The bias feeds itself because every time you quit, you tell yourself, next time will be different. And your brain believes it because that's what optimistic brains do. I watched someone spiral through this exact pattern last week. Most people think this is about being too positive, so they try to be more realistic. They tell themselves to expect obstacles. But that's like trying to see clearly through foggy glasses by squinting harder. The real issue isn't that you're too optimistic. It's that your optimism skips over the middle part between start and finish. You see yourself at the goal. You see yourself starting. You do UNTC the 47 boring Tuesday afternoons, where you have to show up when motivation is gone. That's where the work actually happens. And that's exactly what your optimistic brain refuses to show you. This bias survives because optimism feels better than reality. You'd rather imagine the best-case scenario than plan for the actual case scenario. Plus, admitting your goals were unrealistic feels like admitting you're a failure. That threatens your identity as someone who has potential, and if you stopped being unrealistically optimistic, you'd have to set smaller goals that sound less impressive. You'd have to admit that big changes take way longer than you want them to. Your brain would rather keep the inspiring fantasy than face the unglamorous truth. And that's exactly why most advice about this fails. People who actually achieve their goals aren't more optimistic or pessimistic. They plan for average effort, not peak performance. You imagine yourself at your best and build your plan around that version. They imagine themselves tired on a Wednesday and build plans that work even then. You assume you'll be motivated every day. They assume motivation disappears after week 1. You see the goal, they see the boring middle. The difference isn't positivity. It's honesty about what actually happens between deciding to do something and having done it. You're optimizing for the fantasy. They're optimizing for the reality. So the next time you set a goal and feel that surge of motivation as you picture yourself crushing it, you'll know what's really happening. Your brain is showing you the highlight reel. It is skipping the part where you're retired and nothing is working and you have to choose between pushing through or quitting. That's the real test. Note whether you can imagine success, whether you can plan for the unglamorous grind. Now you can catch it. You can feel the optimistic vision forming and ask, what am I not seeing here? What's this going to look like on a bad day? You're not trying to be negative. You're just building plans for the actual you, not the fantasy version your brain keeps promising will show up. You started this video thinking positive thinking was helping you succeed. Now you know it's been setting you up to fail. That's not a small shift. That's understanding why your motivation crashes every single time. Watch this next video to learn the bias that's even more dangerous than this one.